The distress beacon pulsed weakly through the void, a dying heartbeat in the infinite darkness of space. Lisa stared at the flickering display panel, her breath forming small clouds in the rapidly cooling cabin of the Meridian Explorer. The numbers didn't lie. 43 minutes of oxygen remained, maybe less if the environmental systems continued their slow failure. "We're not going to make it, are we?" Alex's voice cracked from the co-pilot's seat, his fingers still dancing across the navigation console despite knowing it was futile. The asteroid collision had sheared off their primary thrusters and ruptured the fuel lines. They were adrift, 17 light hours from the nearest inhabited system, in a region of space so remote that even salvage crews avoided it. Lisa didn't answer immediately. As the mission commander, she'd led them here, a routine geological survey of the Kepler 442 system's outer asteroid belt. Routine. The word tasted bitter now. Nothing about dying in the cold vacuum of space was routine. "The beacon's still transmitting," she said finally, forcing steadiness into her voice. "Someone might pick it up." Alex laughed, a hollow sound. "Out here, Lisa, we're in the dead zone. The probability of any ship passing within range in the next." He glanced at the oxygen display. 39 minutes is approximately 0.0003%. I ran the calculations twice. She knew he was right. Alex had always been brilliant with numbers, with probabilities and trajectories. It was why she'd requested him for this mission. Now those same analytical skills delivered their death sentence with mathematical precision. The temperature had dropped another 2 degrees. Lisa pulled her jacket tighter, watching the star field through the cracked viewport. Somewhere out there, light from distant suns was still traveling toward them, photons that had begun their journey before humanity had even discovered fire. She would die before that light arrived. Her atoms eventually scattered across the cosmos, becoming part of some future star or planet. There was poetry in that, she supposed. The console beeped, a soft, almost apologetic sound. Another system failure. Life support was now critical. 28 minutes. "I'm sorry," Alex said quietly, "for what I said before the collision, about you being too cautious, too by the book. You were right about the asteroid density readings. I should have listened." Lisa reached across the narrow gap between their seats and squeezed his hand. "We both made choices, Alex. That's all anyone can do." The silence that followed was heavy but not uncomfortable. They'd worked together for 3 years, had survived a radiation storm near Proxima Centauri, had mapped 12 previously uncharted systems. This was supposed to be their last mission before she took the promotion to fleet headquarters. Alex was planning to propose to his girlfriend, Maria, when they returned. He'd shown Lisa the ring, a simple band of platinum with a tiny diamond, earth-mined and worth half a year's salary. That ring was in his locker, back in the cargo bay. Unreachable now, with the aft section completely depressurized. Lisa's mind drifted to her own family. Her sister, Nina, who'd begged her not to take this assignment. Her nephew, 6-year-old Marcus, who thought his aunt was the bravest person in the universe. What would they think when the company officials arrived with their practiced sympathy and standard compensation packages? 22 minutes. The distress beacon continued its futile cry into the darkness. Each pulse consumed a fraction of their remaining power, but what did it matter now? Let it scream until the very end. Then something changed. It was subtle at first, a slight variation in the beacon's rhythm. Alex noticed it simultaneously, his head snapping up from where he'd been staring at his hands. "Lisa, the beacon, someone's handshaking our signal." Her heart lurched. "That's impossible, there's nothing out here." "I'm telling you, something is responding." Alex's fingers flew across the console, pulling up the communication array's diagnostic data. "Look, we've got an acknowledgement ping. Strong signal 2, bearing 273 Mark 45. Distance." He paused, recalculating. Holy God, distance is only 300,000 kilometers and closing fast. 300,000 kilometers. In astronomical terms, they were practically on top of each other, but Lisa knew that no civilian vessel could reach them in time. The math was brutally simple. What's their velocity? Alex's hands trembled as he worked the calculations. 0.47 they're traveling at nearly half light speed. Lisa felt the blood drain from her face. That's impossible. Nothing human can maintain that velocity in normal space. The energy requirements alone. I'm reading what the sensors show me, Alex interrupted, and they're hailing us. The communication system crackled to life, and a voice emerged from the static, calm, professional, impossibly present. Meridian Explorer, this is UNSC Resolute, Captain Chen commanding. We've received your distress call and are en route to your position. ETA 8 minutes. Prepare for emergency extraction. Do you copy? Lisa's throat was too tight to speak. Alex managed a strangled response. We copy, Resolute. Be advised, critical life support failure. Oxygen remaining. He checked the display, 16 minutes. Understood, Explorer. We'll be there in 7. Stand by for tractor beam acquisition. Captain Chen out. The line went silent. Lisa and Alex stared at each other in the dim emergency lighting. UNSC, Alex whispered. United Nations Space Command, but they operate in Sol System and the inner colonies. What's a military warship doing out here? Lisa shook her head, unable to process it. The UNSC Resolute, she'd heard the name before. One of the new Aurora-class cruisers, incorporating breakthrough technology from the Breakthrough Starshot project. Experimental pulse fusion drives that could achieve velocities previously thought impossible for crewed vessels. But they were supposed to be conducting trials near Jupiter, not patrolling the galactic backwaters 17 light hours from anywhere. I don't care why they're here, she said finally. I'm just glad they are. The minutes crawled past with agonizing slowness. 12 minutes of oxygen, then 10. The cold was intense now. Lisa could barely feel her fingers. Alex had gone pale, his breathing shallow as he tried to conserve air. 8 minutes. Then through the viewport she saw it, a flicker of light against the stars, growing rapidly brighter. The Resolute emerged from the darkness like an avenging angel, a sleek wedge of titanium and ceramic composites nearly 800 meters long. Running lights traced its hull in brilliant blue, and from its ventral surface, a shimmering cone of gravitational energy reached toward them. Tractor beam lock acquired, Alex read from the console, his voice weak but tinged with hope. They've got us. The Meridian Explorer shuddered as the beam took hold, gently arresting their tumbling motion and drawing them toward the warship's emergency docking bay. Through the viewport, Lisa could see the massive hangar doors opening, revealing a cavernous space bathed in white light. 6 minutes of oxygen. The docking procedure seemed to take forever, but finally they felt the solid clunk of magnetic clamps securing their crippled vessel. Immediately, warning klaxons blared as the hangar began repressurization. Through the viewport, Lisa saw figures in UNSC emergency response suits rushing toward them. Hang on, she told Alex. We're going to make it. 4 minutes. The external airlock cycled with maddening slowness. Lisa's vision was starting to narrow, dark spots dancing at the edges. Beside her, Alex had closed his eyes, conserving every molecule of oxygen. Then the hatch burst open, and warm, breathable air flooded the cabin. Emergency personnel swarmed in, medical scanners already deployed, oxygen masks pressed to their faces. Strong hands helped Lisa from her seat, guided her toward the brightly lit interior of the warship. She tried to speak to thank them, but her voice wouldn't work. Someone, a medic with kind eyes and sergeant's stripes, smiled at her through his helmet. You're safe now, he said. Just breathe, nice and easy. Lisa let herself be carried along, gulping down the sweet air, feeling sensation return to her extremities. Beside her, Alex was doing the same, tears streaming down his face as relief overwhelmed him. They were placed on gurneys and wheeled through pristine corridors filled with crew members who nodded respectfully as they passed. The Resolute was magnificent, a testament to human engineering at its finest. Every surface gleamed with purpose, every system hummed with barely contained power. Finally, they arrived at the medical bay, where a doctor, Commander HFY, according to her name tag, began immediate examination. "You're both suffering from mild hypoxia and hypothermia," she announced after a few minutes. "Nothing serious. You'll be fine after some rest and rewarming. You were very lucky." "Lucky the Resolute was here," Lisa managed, her voice hoarse. What are you doing in this sector?" Commander HFY exchanged a glance with one of her nurses before answering. "Extended patrol. We've been tracking some unusual gravitational anomalies in this region. Long story, but Captain Chen monitors all distress frequencies, regardless of our primary mission. When your beacon came through, we were only a few million kilometers away." The captain didn't hesitate, full burn at maximum velocity. "You saved our lives," Alex said softly. "Thank you doesn't seem adequate." The doctor smiled. "That's what we're here for. The UNSC doesn't leave people behind. Not ever, not without hesitation." Later, after they'd been treated and given clean jumpsuits to replace their frozen clothing, Captain Chen himself came to visit. He was a compact man with graying hair and eyes that had seen too much of the void. "Commander Hartwell, Specialist Rodriguez," he greeted them formally. "Glad you're recovering. Your ship, I'm afraid, is beyond field repair. We'll take you back to Gateway Station. From there, you can arrange transport home." "Captain," Lisa said, standing despite the doctor's protests, "we owe you our lives. If you hadn't responded—" Chen raised a hand, cutting her off gently. "There's no debt, Commander. You sent out a distress call. We answered. That's the compact we make when we venture into the black, that we'll look out for each other no matter the cost, no matter the inconvenience." He paused, his expression growing distant. "Space is vast and cold and indifferent. It will kill you without malice or mercy if you give it the chance. The only thing standing between us and that emptiness is each other. So when someone calls for help, we answer, without hesitation, always." The simple conviction in his words brought fresh tears to Lisa's eyes. In that moment, she understood something fundamental about humanity's expansion into the cosmos. They weren't conquering space. They were learning to survive it together, one rescue at a time. As the Resolute turned toward home, its fusion drives blazing against the infinite night, Lisa looked out through the observation port at the receding debris field of the asteroid belt. Somewhere out there, their beacon was still transmitting, its purpose fulfilled. And somewhere else, farther than she could imagine, other ships were listening, ready to respond to the next cry for help. Without hesitation. Always.